I appreciate your generosity, Chairman, and thank you for our witnesses for being here today. Jurisdiction over the Office of Congressional Ethics is split among House Administration Committee, the Ethics Committee, and the Rules Committee. However, after nearly 2 decades of existence, the Office of Congressional Ethics has never testified before Congress. I'm glad to see that that's ended today. The Committee on House Administration continues our aggressive oversight agenda. I think the American people deserve to have confidence that Congress is accountable and that congressional entities are accountable to the American people. And that's why the Ethics Committee's work is so critical. The Office of Congressional Ethics was formed as a separate office to review the conduct of members and staff in a nonpartisan and independent manner. OCE is supposed to uphold the rules and ethics of the House, and there's evidence that this has not always been the case. Even today, OCE leadership, I think, continues to avoid accountability. As we do with each invited witness, we offered OCE Staff Director and Chief Counsel, Mr. M. Ashmawi, the opportunity to share his views of OCE's operations and his work here. In both committee rules and House rules require each invited witness to provide written testimony. Mr. Ashmawi declined to provide his own written testimony to the committee, but after staff reminded him of our rules and offered him another opportunity to provide testimony, he co-signed his name at the 11th hour under the previously submitted testimony of the co-chairs who have very different roles at OCE. The purpose of our hearing today is to take steps to reestablish trust in the Office of Congressional Ethics, which has become politicized over the last 15 years. I think it's important to know that the OCE has spent $23 million since its creation and has an annual budget of $1.7 million. So I think it's important that we're ensuring taxpayers are getting $23 million worth of value for their $23 million investment. If not, we should identify what reforms are necessary to ensure OCE fulfills its purpose and is functioning in a nonpartisan and independent manner. With the Chair's grace, I'll move on directly to my questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ashwami, if I can, I'm looking at a report from Jeffrey Harris to the Board of Congressional Ethics titled Investigating an Incident and the Aftermath Involving Chief Counsel Omar Ashmawi occurring on February 14, 2015 in Milford, Pennsylvania. We've discussed this a little bit before. Mr. Vinovich and Mr. Barnes, did you receive copies of this report as well? Yeah. And Mr. Ashmawi, you did as well, correct?
I've seen a copy, yes.
In the February 2015, you were involved in the bar brawl in Pennsylvania that resulted in a lawsuit that was settled out of court, correct?
Not exactly.
Was there a lawsuit that was settled?
There was an assault that occurred in a bar. I'm sorry, Congressman, you missed my previous answer.
No, I was actually privy to it. I was able to watch while not being physically present in the room. But was there a lawsuit associated with that was settled out of court? I understand the conversation where the incident, and you referenced yourself as a victim. I'm just curious if there was a lawsuit that was settled out of court.
There was a lawsuit in which I, the town, and the then chief of police was a party. Ultimately, it was settled.
Did you personally have to pay restitution or damages as part of that settlement?
The agreement, for what it's worth, Congressman, is confidential. I'm not permitted to give the details of it.
Okay, so no answer related to that. But you did use your official email to correspond with Pennsylvania law enforcement and prosecutors, correct, as previously noted?
And other individuals, yes.
And so as we look at that, independent counsel found your actions were improper. Do you agree with the outside investigator that your emails could easily be viewed as intimidating?
I certainly would not have said that at the time. I don't take any issue with the ultimate conclusion by the investigator.
So not at the time, but looking back, you view that your emails could have been viewed as intimidating?
I see that he came to that conclusion and take no issue with it.
Okay. Mr. Vinovich, and then I'll come to you, Mr. Barnes, as well. Do you see using official resources in this manner could be viewed as intimidating, Mr. Vinovich?
I suppose. I don't know that. I conceivably, yes.
Okay. Mr. Barnes?
Sure. It could be seen to be that way.
Okay. Mr. Ashmawi, in one of the emails you sent to the Pennsylvania Victim Witness Coordinator, you wrote that, quote, there are a growing number of individuals in the Washington, D.C. community who've taken an interest in the matter, end quote. Who in D.C. Are you referring to in that statement?
At the time, this issue was the topic of frequent conversation with the then co-chairs of the OCE, who were checking in periodically, both with regard to my health and the status of the investigation.
So they were interested because they were concerned both about your health but also about the investigation?
Yes.
And were they interested in the investigation because these actions were unbecoming of the top ethics official in Congress?
At the time that they were making inquiry, there was only the assault being investigated, and so, no, they were not.
Very good. Continuing, you and Staff Director and Chief Counsel, you are the Staff Director and Chief Counsel for the Office of Congressional Ethics, and were found to have abused your position. Would you have kept an employee at OCE who was accused of intimidation while using official resources?
Based on the same wording and ruling of Mr. Harris's report, I would be inclined to, if they had the same record that I had at the time, yes.
So you believe you should have been able to keep your job?
I'm very proud of the 14 years that I have served, and I have served both the office and this country honorably. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Okay. Mr. Vinovich and then Mr. Barnes. HRS 5, which Congress adopted earlier this year, required the board to affirmatively vote to appoint and approve compensation of OCE staff. Mr. Vinovich, did you vote to appoint Mr. Ashmawi?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes, the board was unanimous in deciding to reappoint Mr. Rush.
So it's a unanimous vote of the board?
Unanimous vote of 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions. I yield back.